with, how do you say this, to specific individuals. So you have to practice brahmacharya, one teaching. Other teaching says that is not important, just focus on who you are. Which one is correct? Both? They are both correct. They are both relatives. None is absolute. If it is an obstacle for you, if it is rising as an obstacle, then the first teaching is what you need. You need to transcend it. And you will eventually, when you stop running, when you stop making excuses. And there is something always big after you go through your obstacle. There's something always big there. But if you're going around it, you will never see it. And you'll just continue stuck, even if you feel that you're not stuck. Okay, my friend Hare Krishna is saying, I'm unable to write off thoughts when I meditate. I don't understand the question. Why should you be able to write when you're meditating? Can you please clarify here? So teachings, they are very abundant and they come as per need. And those teachings, there wouldn't be so much confusion if less and less people would be writing teachings. Because, well, today everyone picks up a book, makes a little bit of translation, then makes their own interpretation and print it. And then others pick it up and confusion, confusion, confusion. But that's the nature of things. You must act on next. So if you look at yoga teachings, for example, you will find different teachings and things to follow, and it's good in a way. But there's too many things. Focus on the essential. Work hard, start meditating intensely, and as you do that, things will emerge, difficulties will emerge. And then you will take care of this thing which is arising. And then when it is solved, the next thing that will arise, and the next, and the next, and the next, that is your map. And according to that map, certain teachings will be important, others will not, because they are still spiritual teachings, apparently opposite. And if you're just choosing the one that suits you better because of your weakness, this has nothing to do with liberation. And a spiritual teaching stops being so and becomes a worldly one because of your use. So all these teachings are there according to your needs and to serve every specific need. The same with the teachings of a master. He can say something to one and he can say the opposite to another. And it is correct because seekers are different. And they have different needs. It's not about right and wrong. It is about transcendence. People tend to confuse this because they want to hold on to a belief system and just follow that and continue life as usual. And you have to dedicate, to intensify, to focus completely. And the more you do this, the more alive your process becomes, the more detached from specific currents of thought. And at this moment, what arises needs this kind of teaching, at the next, it needs that kind of teaching. So the tendency of the mind to go around things needs to be put aside because obstacles are showing you your own path. Because if there's no problem with sex, so then you can stop it, right? So if it continues, or if it stops, it doesn't matter. But if it matters, then it is something else. But you can go around with this about everything if you start this mental wandering. Infinitely you can go around into these things. But if you keep quiet, intensify your practices, and if you deal with each topic that arises as it is arising, then you're on your living track. And this is the most important one. So my advice is stop choosing teachings as you agree with them, because that is still very immature. Intensify your practices, prepare yourself, make your wish for desire strong, ask for guidance, and prepare yourself to follow it, because when it comes, real guidance, it's not something that you will agree upon. Because when you're agreeing, it is something that is inside your world. Guidance comes to accelerate all of that. So it calls you to points that are outside of your world, outside of your logic. That the only way to comprehend it, to see it, to understand it, is just by going through it. And then after you went through it, if you did it in a successful way, then you will understand. If you have fallen down, if you have failed, you will not understand, because you will not see it by yourself. In the absence of guidance, the intensity of your meditation, the intensity of your spiritual quest, this marks the beginning. And as you intensify, your obstacles will start arising, from simple things to big things, from just logistic things, from I have to meditate at this hour, but this has come up and it is urgent and I have to deal. Choices. I have to choose. If you choose meditation, it intensifies. If you postpone meditation, then it cools down, because it is like this. And to big things, to other big questions. And for example, if you're in the middle of that situation about sex, and you find this teaching, no, but you have to let it go, and you feel a lot of agony inside, oh, but this is difficult. Then you see the other, no, but that is not, we just have to focus on your nature. Oh, thank God this is here, now I feel much better, this must be the way for sure. It isn't, not for you, because you're just, what is feeling the relief there, if not just your world of attachments? So it is not the things in itself, but the importance you give to them. But again, self-deception, biggest obstacle. So it is the importance that we give to it. So I just continue with it, and I cut the importance. Good luck with that. So self-deception is always the biggest obstacle. Moving on. Prasun, can you please explain what freedom is and what one have to do for it? To realize freedom, is it necessary to have some telepathy or some other things this kind? And please throw some light on Kundalini, what is actually, and please forgive me if I make any mistake in English. Don't worry, Prasun, we do our best with what we have. Well, this first question, Prasun. What freedom is? Can you explain what freedom is? Well, usually I don't really talk about these things, not in this sense, because if you need some explanation, if you want to make this question a little better, it will be good. Because if you're curious about freedom, then well, it's still a little bit too soon for me to answer your questions, because I usually answer those who are thirsty for liberation and not that are looking for so, but what is, in a sense of, is this interesting for me or not, something that I should. So this is. And what one have to do for it. So in simple words, freedom is knowing who you are, is being free from this individual self-delusion. And what you have to do for it, it's to break that individual self-delusion. Very simple words. Do they mean anything? Well, that depends on you. To realize freedom, is it necessary to have some telepathy or some other things this kind? You mean those, what is referred as siddhis? No, absolutely not. What happens is sometimes in the practice of yoga, latent capacities, dormant ones, they come. But understand that most of the times this is more distraction than anything else. So it is better to put on your prayers that if there's anything of this, please don't let it come to me, because I don't need it. Because this can deviate your path a lot. You see, Maya has different levels. And please throw some light on Kundalini, what actually is. Well, there's abundant literature, and I don't really go into these things because, well, we have to select a little bit what we talk about, or else we create more confusion than clarification. But in a way that it's not possible to not to create confusion, because if you're trying to clarify one, you will confuse all others that are listening. It is like this. But let's say it is your dormant power, like your dormant staircase or elevator, that divine part of you that rips you out of your delusion matrix. Not because I'm not trying to go through the technical aspects of Kundalini. There's a lot of good literature out there for this, and even your experiences, difficult, there will be, it is difficult that they will be, how do you say this, that you will find them in books or something like that, but it gives you a good idea. And it talks about meditation in a more scientific way, and that those aspects I don't usually go too much into, because I try to focus here on that which is center of all of this. And the center is what I said previously. So focusing on your quest for freedom, picking up a meditation technique and practice it intensely so that you can prepare yourself for guidance. And in that process, your obstacles will arise, and the obstacles, the nature of the obstacles, will show what kind of teaching is best if guidance is not there. And to be able to discern this, there is something which is much more important. There's a struggle that needs to be won. And that struggle is that battle between the seeker of truth and the seeker of well-being in you. Because if you are negotiating with the seeker of well-being, you will fall down. It's just a matter of time, of when, not of if, but of when. So the character, it has to become totally committed with the quest for freedom and to be prepared to do anything that is needed in that sense. It doesn't matter if you understand it, if others understand it, it doesn't matter. So your compromise has to arise this high, or else you will fall down, or you'll just continue distracted. So it all comes down to simple, basic, and it is your thirst for liberation and the intensity that you're going after it. If these two maintain, all else will fit into place. Sometimes with a lot of pain involved. Sometimes it is unavoidable, because if something is very important for you and it has arisen and it is an obstacle, for you to transcend that, it will take pain. After you have transcended, it doesn't matter, it becomes unimportant, as it really was always. So sometimes it is at the cost of high degrees of pain. But it is like this, it depends on how important things are for you. But when you're in the middle of this, it is better to say, I'm not being able to transcend it, but I will continue to try endlessly, even if I die trying, than to go around and say, and finding a better teaching that allows me to give the impression that I'm continuing, moving on, when you're really not. So self-deception is one of the biggest obstacles. And people engage in spiritual teachings, in studying this and that, and it is good, but it takes a lot of time. And eventually they have to come to this point. And sometimes they reach to a level that it makes no sense, so they change to another system, and then they change again, and it is natural, it is a part. Because there's nothing that will be actually complete. More or less, unless you are really fully prepared. But that is another subject that I will not go into now. So everything is relative, and in your process, things will come in the order that they are important for you, not in an order predetermined by any philosophical teachings. And if the intensity is there, the thirst is there, and you are expressing this thirst through the intensity of your practices, then the obstacles start arising, and those will be the important ones. And if they are arising, it is for you to deal with them, not for you to counter, to go around them, to find an easy solution for that problem. Because the more difficult it is, the more, how do you say this, the more growth it is beyond it. So if you go through it, your rewards will be much, much bigger. If you go around it, you'll just continue. Well, okay. So if there's no more questions, then it is all for today. Next satsang will be Wednesday, 9 a.m. Brazilian time, UTC -3. If you have questions about this, you can send today or whenever you are watching this, and then it will be answered in the next satsang. In the life of the seeker of truth, keep this in mind. In the life of the seeker of truth, there is no room for any discussions. If you're having discussions, worldly, spiritual, then you're just wasting time and distracting yourself. The only thing that is important is when the obstacles arise, to solve those obstacles, to transcend them by all means necessary. That is the important thing. Because if you're having discussions, you're trying to defend something that you're really not sure about. It is impossible to be sure about. If you're sure about something, well, the nature of that certainty, if it isn't by practical realization, then it is something else that's not suitable. So a certain amount of conviction is important, but having discussions and making comments and giving opinions, keep that to yourself. Don't disturb your silence. And if you have to disturb silence, it's because you're finding difficulties in solving those obstacles that are arising, and you're looking for your answers. So you're not looking to affirm something, to affirm some certainty, but you are looking to solve your doubts. And that means you are focused on your path. If you're doing something else, well, either you are distracted or you're not really a seeker of truth. Either way, it is a waste of time. So those who are thirsty for liberation, focus on your practices. You see, mental knowledge, philosophical teachings and all of that, they are there available in a way as a description or as a guide for things that you may go through. But practice comes first. Okay. So until Wednesday, intensify your practices, make it real for you. Wednesday, intensify your practices, make it real for you.